I'd like to call to order today the Wednesday, August 9th, 2023 public hearing for the City of Tampa's Architectural Review Commission. Welcome, everyone. I'm Susan Klaus-Smith. I am chair of the commission. I'm also a registered architect. If you are here to present a project, you will have limited time to make your presentations, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself in relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation, and your project should be presented in the following order: the site plan, elevations, architectural details, and wall sections. The staff will then present a staff report, and we will then ask for public comment. Following your presentation, the commissioners will be asking questions in the same order as the presentation. When coming to the microphone, please state and spell your name clearly, and if you are here to speak for or against, your time will be limited to 3 minutes. So take some time now to summarize your comments, because 3 minutes goes by very quickly. Following the public comment period, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal, and then we will close the public hearing. The only comments which will be allowed after the public hearing is closed will be in response to any questions from the commissioners. The commissioners will then discuss the case and will make their decision based on the city ordinance, chapter 27 of the city zoning code, design guidelines, the Secretary of Interior standards, Historic Preservation Development Review or HPDRC comments, and the testimony given tonight at the public hearing. Please remember that the ARC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibility. Owners and or agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and or approvals. Now, if you haven't already done so, please do silence your cell phones, and I'll ask my fellow commissioners to introduce themselves, starting on my left.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Sutton. I am also a registered architect. I also hold the architectural historian chair for this commission.
Dan Myers, I'm a registered architect.
John Prokop, I practice architecture.
And tonight we have with us attorney Dana Crosby-Collier, Alexis Guzman, and Ron Vila. We'll move on to ex parte.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dana Crosby-Collier from the City Attorney's Office. I'd like to inquire whether any member of the commission has a conflict of interest with any item on the agenda tonight.
I have none.
I have none.
Okay, thank you. Has any member engaged in ex parte communication regarding any item on the agenda this evening?
None.
I have
None.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Ron Vila. I'm staff with Historic Preservation. And moving down the agenda, the next item is continuations. We have two reflected on tonight's agenda. The first one is ARC 23-341 for the address of 1504 South Howard Avenue. This was requested by the agent to continue to the Monday, September 11th, 2023 public hearing at 5:30 p.m. And then the second continuation is ARC 22-180 for the address of 506 East Mohawk Avenue. That was also requested by the agent to continue to the Monday, September 11th, 2023 public hearing at 5:30 p.m. Since both of the cases are requesting to be continued to date certain, which is the same date, one motion will be sufficient.
Can a motion, please?
I move to continue ARC 23-341 at 1504 South Howard Avenue and ARC 22-180 at 506 East Mohawk Avenue to the Monday, September 11th, 2023 public hearings at 5:30 p.m.
I second the motion.
All in favor, please state aye and raise your hand indicating so.
Aye.
Motion carries.
So at this time, we're ready for the swear-in. Ms. Guzman will swear everybody in. Everybody that wishes to testify, please stand up and raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
So the first agenda item is ARC 23-235. This is for the address of 830 South Willow Avenue. This is in the Hyde Park Historic District. This is a non-contributing structure that dates back to 1992. The zoning is RS60. The existing square footage is approximately 3,900 square foot, and the proposed after the addition is going to go to 4,470. The request this afternoon is for a certificate of appropriateness for an addition to the primary structure, new construction of an accessory structure that is really a shed, and then with site improvements. Going through the photo presentation, this is the Sanborn map from 1929. The property in question, there was a lot split many years ago that was in between 828 and 832, so it fits right in here at 830 South Willow. There is an alley that runs north and south behind the subject site that will not be part of this request. And as I go through the photo presentation, I'm gonna call out some items for you to focus on that will be part of the request moving forward. So you could use the photo presentation as a guide. This is from above. This is a current aerial showing the primary structure. It does have a two-story accessory structure that will be removed. This is non-contributing as well as part of this master plan for this site. And it does have a pool that the pool is going to be filled in at this time. And in this location here is where that shed is going to go. So you kind of have the lay of the land of how this is going to move forward. Going to the subject site, a part of the request also is that these columns in the front will be modified. And then the porte-cochere is going to be demoed and relocated on that same side, but back from the front facade. You see the engagement of the porte-cochere, how it dies into the front roof line. It's going to be pushed back slightly. There is no variance. They have enough side yard that they will meet the 7 foot required by the zoning classification attached to this parcel. And just looking at the front elevation, the north elevation, and currently how the engagement of the porte-cochere into the non-contributing structure. This is looking at the period abutting house to the north. Going back to the subject site, front elevation, front porch, with the beautiful shutters that close the openings, and it has the hardware as our criteria calls for. And then you have the south elevation. This is looking at the abutting structure, which is a contributing structure to the south. Some street shots. It has a beautiful canopy on Willow in both directions. This is to the south. You see the bay in the background. This is directly across the street. And there is a small addition that is going to be requested this evening. This is the rear elevation, and it's going to fill in this little void back in here. This is looking at the 2-story non-contributing accessory structure that staff has the ability to grant the request since it is non-contributing. It dates back to 92. This is just that same structure looking from the alley. And then to complete the photo presentation, you see the rear of the primary structure, the detached 2-story non-contributing accessory structure, and the location of the pool. At this time, I'll have the agent, Mr. Jones, address the board.
Thank you, Ron. Good evening. My name is Greg Jones with Jones Architecture, and as Ron mentioned, I'm the agent for this application. I wanted to take a minute while Ron's opening this up just to introduce you guys to why we're here. Our clients reached out to us because as their family grew, they realized that they appreciated having a more yard space than they would a carriage house or a pool. So what they also needed was a slight addition to the interior of the main house. So our proposed solution is to remove the existing pool and the 2-story accessory structure, as Ron mentioned. Yep. Then replace it with a small storage building. These changes will accomplish the owner's desire to provide an open, safe place for their kids to play. Then we're also proposing to connect this area to the existing home using a new back porch that faces the backyard. And then lastly, there is the existing wood steps at the front porch are deteriorating. It's a wood frame structure, so we're proposing to replace that existing wood frame porch with masonry over fill, with concrete slab over fill, and then to finish that with clay brick pavers that match the front walkway and the driveway. Ron talked about some of the stuff we're doing at the front porch, and to join with that, we're also proposing to do some work on the columns, and I'll show you what those things look like. But the footprint, the size, and the height of the porch stays exactly the same. So this is the existing site plan. You can see the location of the main house, the porte-cochere, the pool, and the accessory structure. The shaded areas indicate the location of items we would like to modify. This is the proposed site plan showing the location of the new one-story storage building in the southeast corner of the property, as well as the new back porch. The proposed porte-cochere is in a location similar to the existing, but it's been set back from the front elevation to respect the massing of the main house. The existing driveway and walkways are unaffected by the new work. We're proposing to complete the site fencing that would be located on the east, where the accessory structure would be removed. The new fence would tie into and match the existing painted wood fence. This shows the existing and proposed west elevation facing Willow Avenue. As we studied the proposed changes to the home, it was important to us that these changes would complement the scale and details of the existing home. We're proposing to replace the pairs of columns at the front porch with full height single columns, which will create a more open feeling. To ensure that the new porte-cochere is appropriately connected to the main house, we set it back 2.5 feet from the front elevation. This helps maintain the proportions of the front elevation and provides a clean connection at the second floor space. The north elevation shows where the proposed porte-cochere occurs in relation to the front. This elevation also shows a side view of the proposed back porch, whose scale, materials, and details will match those of the front porch. The east elevation shows the new back porch and the rear elevation of the porte-cochere. And then the only changes visible from the south elevation are the side views of the front and rear porches. For the design of the new storage building, it was intended to be complementary to the main house without competing with it. To achieve this, we're proposing to keep the scale small and the material palette simple, using painted board and batten siding and a shingle roof. The pair of swinging carriage doors is a reference to traditional storage buildings. The style of the wall sconces will be in keeping with those on the main house. The wall detail on the left shows the new columns and floor material at the front porch. The height and size of the porch remains the same. The wall detail on the right shows that we're matching the exterior materials of the house at the new porte-cochere. The roofing, siding, window trim, soffit, and fascia materials will all match. These photographs show examples of the existing materials that will be utilized as part of the addition to the home. We're incorporating the brick base, the porch ceiling, the trim, the siding, and the window casing details. These are a couple of additional photographs showing a typical window with trim and the main house soffit detail. This is the existing painted wood fence and gate that provides access to the backyard. On the right side of this slide is the existing first floor. The hatched areas indicate the space is proposed to be modified. The proposed first floor plan is on the left and shows the new single columns at the front porch, the location of the porte-cochere, and the addition of the back porch. This shows the existing second floor on the right and proposed on the left. There's an existing window at the top of the stairs that provided a great connection point to the new interior space above the porte-cochere. The proposed roof plan on the left shows how the new porch share connects cleanly to the existing home. It also simplifies the roof at the front porch. This is the floor and roof plan for the storage building. It is, again, intended to be deferring to the main house, so we kept it straightforward and complementary. This photo shows the proximity of the pool to the existing back of the house. This is a photograph of the back of the home. And this is similar to the one that Ron showed you earlier, where the proposed new back porch would be located. And lastly, the photo on the left is the existing light fixture at the front porch that we propose to match at the new storage building. The photo on the right is the clay bricks at the front walkway. We are proposing to use something similar for the flooring at the front and rear porches. Our design goal was to make sure we were sensitive to the existing scale and massing of the home and that the details in the new addition were consistent. We feel the proposed solution satisfies the owner's program in a way that complements the existing home's character as well as being consistent with the neighborhood fabric. This evening, we're seeking a full approval, and we thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. We'll move on to the staff report.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Staff's finding that this application is consistent with the Hyde Park Design Guidelines. Just to bring to your attention again, this structure dates back to 1992. It is a non-contributing structure. In reviewing this request, we look at the overall scale and massing of the original structure that was reviewed and approved and how the addition matches harmoniously into the fabric that is there now. We had some conditions attached to the staff report, but all were addressed through the presentation, and I'll be here to assist in the presentation if you need any comments from staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. We will now move to public comment period. If there's anyone here who would like to speak for or against this project, you have the opportunity at this time. Seeing none, we'll move on to the commissioners asking questions. We'll start on my left. If you wouldn't mind, sir.
I have no question at this moment, please.
Mr. Myers.
No questions at this time.
I have no questions at all either.
I do.
Yay.
Where are any of the equipment, outdoor equipment pieces going? I would assume that there must be some change out possibly or relocation of
Yeah,
some items.
it actually gets a little easier. So we're taking out all the pool equipment. Everything's located on the south side of the house right now, the
Okay.
HVAC equipment and the pool equipment. We're taking out, obviously, the pool equipment with that. And then there was a small split unit for the existing two-story carriage house that will be removed with the carriage house.
Okay. And then in terms of the fence and gate, you showed the existing, and I missed whether or not you said you were going to, if you had any new fence or gate, you were going to match the existing, is that correct?
We are. So where the carriage house engages that side where the alley is, we're going to enclose the rest of that with the existing fencing. So we're just going to match that painted wood fence that you saw.
Okay, and then in terms of the windows, what are the windows?
The windows that actually were replaced a year ago. They're aluminum clad wood, I believe, but I'm not doing anything different than what's already there.
Just one sec,
Yep.
looking at some notes. So question for staff, do we have on record window replacement for this particular property? I don't see that on the list of previous action.
So the previous action we put on the staff report, if it comes to the board, if it's an administrative function, it doesn't make the staff report.
Okay,
So that's something we would have done internally.
okay. So do we have that?
We will have that in the database, and if that's something that you want to put as a condition in the motion that they match the existing, that's a condition we could follow through with.
Okay, and then the same question for the doors that you'll be installing. I would assume that there are new doors somewhere, exterior doors?
No, so we've got a current existing door that we'll use the same door. We're going to leave it there to access that back porch.
Okay, all right. That is it for my questions. Any other questions for the applicant? Nope. you have 5 minutes for rebuttal. If you'd like to enter anything else into the record at this time, you may do so.
I think we're good.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and we will discuss the case. Thank you. Any points to consider?
No, I think even though the house is increasing in mass, with the carriage house coming down, that square footage is being taken off the property. And I don't think there's any pervious issues because of again, taking the pool out, taking the carriage house out, closing off access to the alley. I don't have any problems.
Mr. Myers?
This is, it's a very nice project. There's a little fine tuning. It seems that they're using columns on the back porch that are the same size as those on the front porch. It seems to me like they could perhaps be a little bit smaller, reflecting that.
Slimmer.
Slimmer, exactly. And-
Proportionate to the space.
Yes. And also that it is, it's a shed in the backyard, and so the light fixture perhaps should be more like a shed in the backyard and not the sconce that one would put next to one's front door. Those are my only two comments.
Mr. Sutton, any?
When I first reviewed this project, I was a little bit concerned about the nature of the demolishing of the original porte cochere, because I thought how it married into the front porch with that side step was really a nicely done sort of detail. But after seeing what the proposal was, particularly for the expansion of the second floor, that whole relocation makes total sense, absolutely total sense. So I think that was a smart move on their part, because I could see how that would be complicated, if you will, in terms of detailing, if you were to maintain the front portion of that existing porte cochere, because that addition portion on the second floor would be behind that spring line.
Agreed.
Okay, so I think they're an appropriate direction for that here. Overall, I think this is just a nicely executed small project. I wish we had more people come in this way. I particularly appreciate the simplicity of the accessory structure. I really do. I think that works out really well for this site.
I have no concerns. I think I've vetted what I had concerns over, and I do think that if we move forward with the motion, that there is some point made about the windows being reviewed internally with staff.
Mm-hmm.
Entertain a motion at this time.
Find the right one, please.
I think I've got it. Move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing for ARC. Now I'm going to figure that one out. Thank you. ARC 23-235 for the property located at 830 South Willow Avenue with the following conditions: that the agent provide staff with the final specification for the additional windows for their coordination and approval, because based upon the finding of fact.
There were a few things you mentioned, I thought.
But those are, I don't feel that those should be conditions. Those are just suggestions.
Okay.
Because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Hyde Park Historic District Design Guidelines for the City of Tampa for the following reasons: that the massing, building form, setback, and orientation and site coverage are all in line with the other construction in the district.
I have a second.
I will second that motion.
That's yours. Sir, if you could please come to the podium just really quickly. Before a vote, we typically ask if you understand the conditions that were set forth and if you agree with those.
I do.
Okay, so those in favor, please state aye and raise your hand indicating so.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Moving to the next agenda item, which is ARC 23-336. This is for the address of 1413 South Howard Avenue. This is also in the Hyde Park Historic District. There is a structure underneath the cladding that is currently on the site that dates back to 1925, but because of the modifications done to the structure many, many years ago, it's lost its status and it's non-contributing. The zoning is a PD. As part of this request moving forward, they are not intensifying the site. The footprint is staying the same. The entrance and exit for the vehicular access, it remains the same. The parking count remains the same, and the solid waste location. So this did not have to go through a substantial change review. It is keeping the original PD status. Moving forward, the request is for a certificate of appropriateness for exterior renovations with some site improvements. The last renovation that was done to this site was 2005, and the pictures will show exactly what that is. So as I go through the photo presentation, starting with the Sanborn map, property in question is on the on the west side of South Howard. You see in 1929, you see the very linear structure that was there, and the footprint complements the footprint that's there now. Back in 1929, it says it was auto storage, and then you see the fabric that encompasses the rest of the site. Obviously, the period structures have been removed, and that's where the parking is currently. This is our vicinity map for you to get a perspective of where it's at within the overall local historic district. It's on the southern portion, the southwest portion of the vicinity. Moving to an aerial from above, this is current day. This is that linear building that I spoke about. And then the parking to the north. This is Howard Avenue. This is the primary elevation which faces Howard, and this is the south elevation. Mechanicals are on the roof. You see some of the articulation here with the roof and the covering over the outdoor seating. Once again, you can notice where some of the signage is and what they're going to request this evening. This is the abutting structure to the south. This is internal. This is the north elevation. This is looking from Howard. Just another perspective of that elevation. This is the one that's going to receive the majority of the modification. And once again, internal, the parking count is not going to change. The layout of the parking is not going to change through this request. This facade is going to be the majority of the modification I spoke about. And just different perspectives from within the parking area. This is Howard Avenue in the background. As you come into the parking, it's a circular motion that the vehicles take on. This is where the solid waste is. Just looking at how it's handled currently. This is looking down Howard. This is to the south and to the north. Directly across the street, you have Burns Park. And just looking down the secondary street, this is as it intersects Howard Avenue. And in the other direction as it goes into the residential community that is not part of the local district. And that concludes the photo presentation. Matt is the agent, and he will address the board at this time.
Are you going to pull up the PDF? Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Entering. I'll be representing ASD Skye. We are the architectural firm that will be the architects of record for this project located at 1413 South Howard Avenue. I was told that I tend to over talk about design, so I'm going to try to be very, very brief, and I'll just kind of jump into. Hopefully, this will go over for us. So, just kind of outlining the site that we're kind of addressing here today. And I think Ron kind of pointed to it already, but just as a, let's see if we can do this here, yeah. So, our primary design is gonna take place all within the current property line. As Ron stated, we're not adding anything additional to the parking. We're not doing anything additional to the landscape, except maybe we're gonna upgrade some of the plants that are currently there. But as far as any other things that are gonna be touching this drive, it's totally in the clear for us, so we don't wanna trigger any weird things with that. So I just kind of want to show the top is the existing building as it currently stands. The bottom is our rendering and representation of the direction that we want to take all these renovations in. You could see here that we've kind of decided with the client that we're going to be taking down this cupola area here. And also we're going to be removing this small roof in the front with the intention of replacing it with some modern interventions and exposing a lot of the potential stores that are going to be on the ground floor. This is a little representation, a little bit closer of what we are planning to do as a before and after. You can see the existing lobby entry on the top left, and to the immediate right is what we're hoping to accomplish. I think the goal for us and the client was to find a way that we could reinvigorate the building, but still sort of touch on the Hyde Park style that's currently existing here. We felt that a modern intervention with very sleek lines and not really introducing too many new materials was a good move for us to explore. On the bottom left, you'll kind of see an example of one of the storefronts. You'll see to the right, this is kind of our design intent, is to really expose that storefront, and also we're going to be hoping to expand the front a little bit here. We're proposing some very expensive but beautiful steel doors. We're mimicking the mullions and muntins that I think is already existing in the building. We wanted to kind of keep that style and present it as a kind of boutique approach. One of the requests that came in that Ron and I spoke about was, I think it was a request that we just investigate a little bit more of how we might be doing this intervention within the main lobby. And I think one of the concerns was that we just wanted to see different versions of what the client might actually accept and what we think would be moderately appropriate. And so all the way to the left, this is our original design for the new lobby entry. You can see that we've kept it sort of tucked underneath the roof line. One of the goals for us was to keep this design very streamlined and just very, very simple. But in reviewing some of the other options, you could see that we're sort of taking this moment frame intervention that's happening and we're kind of bringing it above the roof line. And you could see that in the center and to the right. These are just two examples that I think we've run by the client, and I think they're definitely accepting of. This is a representation of the site here. Again, I think it's all the parking remains, all of the finishes remain the same here, and the planting will just be revitalized and replaced. Another question that came up for us was how were we addressing the solid waste area? And I think you could see in the top left here, this is the existing condition. And I think Ron even had some better photos of this one too. You can see on the bottom, we're gonna keep it exactly, the footprint's gonna stay exactly as it is, but we're gonna put on the new siding to match the new painted siding that we're gonna be putting on the front facade. So all of these will be matching each other. The doors themselves will also have the matching siding. A little bit of a plan here to kind of give you an idea of the scope that we're introducing. So on the bottom, we're representing sort of a demolition plan, but it's also sort of a view into the existing condition in the front of the building. At the top, you'll see that we're sort of introducing a new entryway here that kind of tucks back in the building a little bit further. But this gives you a pretty good idea of where we're going with the scope of work. Two elevations here. The one on the top is our proposed. You'll see a pretty good representation of how we're introducing this modern intervention, is what we're kind of calling it, and simplifying the front of the building, but also exposing potential tenants on the ground floor. Some other elevations and examples that kind of show the scope of work we're trying to accomplish here. The one on the top is our proposed. I think the main goal of this elevation is to show that we're going to be going around the building and we're going to be replacing or simplifying the existing columns that are there. Right now, the existing columns, they have a lot of extra woodwork on them, but we want to kind of shave that off, and we want to put on a new finish and repaint them and make them a little bit more simpler. You can see two sections here that represent an area for the typical awning and its protrusion from the storefronts below, and then to the right, this is an example of how we want to introduce the lobby canopy, which would be a much longer one. We were asked to do a material board. This is kind of our approach to it. You'll see that on the top left, we've got the wood slats, which will be accompanying the main entry lobby. You'll see labeled number 1 all the way on the right. We're going to be matching the existing siding on the current building. We're going to be painting that a white color. Currently, I think it's a little bit of a blue. Number 2 is a representation of the blackened steel that we are going to propose to use for the awnings. And then behind that, you'll see a representation of the steel storefront system that we want to propose using. Below that, there's existing brick pavers that we are going to potentially sandblast a little bit towards the front, but that would be the only change in the only adaptation at all happening for the site in the front. And that would just be in the main lobby. 2 examples of the lights that we are currently hoping to use are represented on the right. And below that is a little bit of our approach for the signage that we would anticipate putting potentially above each storefront area. We were also asked to represent a little bit of the marquee signage that we're hoping to replace out on the site. We wanted to kind of give an example of the aesthetic approach that we're going to be taking here. We're still sort of working out exactly a little bit of the branding of the building, but I think we just wanted to show and represent to the board, you know, the approach that we're taking. We're hoping is going to be complementary to the new proposed design for the building. There's a little bit of the isometric for the signage. I think that kind of covers it.
Okay, we'll move on to the staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservations. Staff's finding that this application is consistent with the Hyde Park design guidelines. Just to bring to your attention, this is a non-contributing structure. The last renovation was in 2005, and the agents came forward that the building needs a facelift and modern architecture design. We had some concerns with the solid waste and the location and how it's being treated currently, and he's addressed that through his presentation. The roof line is very linear, but the modern approach that they're trying to incorporate into this plan seems to work. The main entrance was a reference point of concern, and they've addressed it with 3 different design intents, and the board could discuss that as it moves forward. The signs, I believe he showed the inspiration and the location. Is not totally defined at this time. He could work with staff if it's the pleasure of the board to move forward, but they did indicate on the building over the storefronts, the pin-mounted signage to complement the modern approach to the architecture. And then just lastly, if he could touch upon the roof material. They have an existing material there, and how the modifications to the roof and how they're going to incorporate the new material. And then on some of the photos that I showed, the mechanicals are on the roof, and if he could elaborate at the location of the mechanicals. And that completes staff's portion of the presentation.
Thank you, Ron. So we will move on to public comment. If there is anyone here to speak for or against this project, you may do so at this time. If you'd like to, have you been sworn in, sir? No. So if you could stand, they'll swear you in, and then you may approach.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am. My name's Zachary Carver. I'm a local attorney and sports agent, and I live, actually, my office and where I live is, you see it in one of the photos.
Can you actually enter your address in for the
Yeah.
record? Thank
It's
you.
it's 1404 South Moody Avenue, and there's 3 units to it, Unit A, B, and C. And I'm not sure, might go back on a few of these items. I saw it in one of the photos. It was kind of cool. Not sure if this was. You can technically see it. So this little building right here where my mouse is, I think that's the one there. And that's actually, so I own the property there. It's 3 units. I live in one of the units, rent the other one out, and then my law office and sports agent office is in the back. And I'm not necessarily making an opposition or for or against it or anything like that. My biggest concern and why I was here is all I got was the notice. And I'm actually a construction attorney, and shame on me, I didn't fully inspect the plans there. My biggest concerns were that I can see from my office the solid waste storage aspect of it, and there's a lot of landscaping there, and then they mentioned some site work that'd be done, and just because I'm an attorney, I do mediations, depositions, a lot of things done from Zoom, and I mean, I'm literally an underhand stone's throw from where all this is happening. So my concern was any sort of like how long the project would take, kind of how loud their items would be, as in if I'm trying to do a deposition and there's jackhammering right outside there. And so that was actually more of just inquiries onto it. I am a construction attorney. I understand there's some certain items that are unavoidable, and I personally think the big picture project of it is actually would probably outweigh my concerns, is just because the economic impact since I bought it in 2019, I don't know if it was the Tom Brady effect or anything, but prices have shot up for real estate value. I'm very happy about it. It's more of a business concern and even a concern for some of my tenants. So I'm not exactly sure who's the best to have that addressed, but that was really my concern, is the length of the project, kind of, the noise that will linger around, whether they be working weekends, nights, during the day. So yeah, that was just kind of in well, I just want to see if it could be addressed and the real reason why I'm here. But that was it. So I'll return it back to you guys.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak for or against this project at this time? Seeing no one else, we will move on to commissioners asking questions, and I'll start with Mr. Myers.
So could you bring up the 3 different entry elevations?
Yeah.
Okay, you we're all architects here, and of course, so we all have an opinion about this.
Sure.
But it's a very tight box right now, it seems. And so personally, I think that you hit it the first time. And handling the, it's always a little difficult to handle the water. Could you talk about handling how you're handling the water as it's coming off the roof?
Yeah. So in the first proposed option, there's currently a gutter system that runs along the edge of the roof, and we just intend to replace that and keep it in its same spot.
Mm-hmm.
So the water will run off and hit that gutter, and then just kind of run off and go down the leaders that are on either side.
So for moving to the right,
Mm-hmm.
once you interrupt that roof line, you.
So it would be a detail that we would have to definitely
Okay.
work out. But I think we would still also utilize the current gutter system that's up there, and we would more than likely introduce probably a small cricket in the back. It might cause that to raise a little bit, maybe by a couple inches or so.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we could address it that way. Yeah.
Okay,
If that makes sense.
thank you. That's no other questions.
Mr. Prokop?
Yeah, I had this slide noted also on mine. Are you presenting any one of these three as the actual elevation, or are we supposed to just assume that any of these, we're supposed to approve all three of these?
No, I think this first one here is what we presented, and we're only presenting option 2 and 3 as a way to address one of the comments that came back for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, I think the subjugation of the elevation, and you probably agree, and not put it as the sky,
Yeah.
the relationship to the sky, and that's what you see when you look up the building is the address, is the right thing to do. Ron brought up something saying, talking about roof materials, and I wasn't sure what he was referring to. Do you know?
We are going to be doing a little bit of roof work here and replacement, but we're going to be matching the existing metal roof that's there.
Okay. Are you addressing the exposed rooftop HVAC units in any way, shape, or form? Do those elevations show?
Yeah. Currently, right now, we're working with our MEP team, and we are replacing those units with new ones, but they're going to go in the same location.
Are you planning on screening them?
We have.
Would you consider screening them?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that would be a benefit to the project to screen them.
Yeah.
And also referring to the local, your neighbor and what he spoke, are you considering additional or denser landscape screening between the solid waste enclosures
Yeah,
and the
that's
adjacent property owner
That's a great.
to maybe alleviate a little bit of that visibility?
That's a great point. I think currently right now, we have a landscape architect working with us, and they're just kind of replacing what's already there with just new plants, which are the same species. I think looking at that though, and kind of exploring that a little bit more.
I think that would be a benefit to the project also.
Yeah, okay.
I have no other questions.
Following on that track, can we go to the picture of the existing condition at the waste area?
Yeah, let me see which, hopefully I can do.
Actually, I think Ron had a better picture.
Yes, he does.
Ron, can you put up your picture with the beautiful sail shade structure that's attached to it, please? There.
Yeah,
So I noticed in your elevation that you're retaining the sidewalls of that addition, I would assume.
mm-hmm.
Is there any consideration to actually raise those, that they're the same height as the other, and actually adding to some of that screening.
Yeah. I think, again, these are all great suggestions. I think our original intent was to just keep it as very simple as we could. You know, we didn't want to trigger too many things, but I think absolutely we could look at raising those.
So I agree with trying not to trigger things, but you're touching it already.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and in the district, we try so hard to minimize the impact of support services, right? And
Yeah.
all I can imagine is that you pretty it up and then this happens again, right? As try as you might as an owner, if you're not an on-site owner, things like this do happen. And so just working with the client and talking about the possibilities and what you can do at this point, since you're spending some money, to address that
Yeah.
potential. Yeah. Because this is really, I mean,
It's a-
having gone to this establishment,
It's
I do
eyesore.
remember this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ron, you have a much better photo.
Yeah, I would like to continue on that same vein, if I may.
Yes, absolutely.
Obviously, this awning cover is brought to us by the fact that it's a pretty good idea to keep your firewood dry. And I'm wondering if you all had any thought as to how you're going to achieve that. Because if you were to continue with the design right now,
Yeah.
this awning's coming back. The situation is that for practical purposes, this site has 2 front yards. And this front yard is the
Yeah.
parking lot, and this is your front corner.
Right.
Okay, so this is,
Understood.
this, I think this needs to be re-examined for its real functionality.
Yeah.
And what modifications you need to do, I think would be still appropriate for the whole thing. The intention is to, if you will, almost bulletproof a very utilitarian structure.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you really need to go with this sort of.
Yeah.
It actually could be a way to sort of celebrate the idea
Yeah.
of wood-fired cooking, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as an architect, how cool would that be to
It's
take that and
super-
modernize it, right?
Super cool. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
I would
great
like-
point.
I would also like to revisit the matter of the roof. I understand how the nature of your renovation work is going to be the removal of pieces, the addition of pieces, the knitting together of pieces.
Yeah.
I have no issue with the thought of you being able to match, roofing profiles for this metal roof. That's not an issue here. I'm sure that can very readily be done. However, the fit and finish on that could be another matter. Part of the success of your presentation as well as of your concept is an overall streamlining of this entire facade for the building. And that also brings up a similar, and you're redoing all the finishes on the lower floors. That roof line is also part of that streamlining. It's actually going to become more pronounced in its horizontal nature. And you're going to have panels of slightly varying colors and things of that nature. Have you thought about how you plan on making that a uniform surface in terms of either matte, color, texture, whatever?
Yeah, I think, maybe in sort of a maybe like a broader response would be, we've been on the roof, we've seen what the material is, we feel like we could get almost the exact same product.
Mm-hmm.
And I think matching the finish that's currently up there, because right now it is painted. I think we would work closely with our builder, and we would make sure that we wouldn't get these different splotches going on. One way to do that, there could be a lot of ways to do it, but I think one way would be if we're required to, if we have to refinish the whole roof to make it match, I think that's something that we could do. But I feel like we would work with our builder closely and make sure that we get those to be as close as we can get them.
So I think that's going to be a very, very important part to the success of this entire.
Yeah,
right? I
no,
think you're
I
doing this
agree.
nice dress up on your first and second floor levels.
Yeah.
And then to, to leave that horizontal cap as an afterthought and
Yeah.
looking as such could be a big
Yeah,
error.
we don't want splotches of different pieces of roof up there at all. So I completely agree.
Because your rendering suggests that you're going to do a cool roof job on it.
That's the intent. That's what we're pushing for. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
So I do have a few additional questions. Can we look at your east elevation, please?
So this is our north.
East.
Yeah.
Thank you. Could we zoom in to the proposed? You can zoom out just a tad and go to the right. To the right.
The Howard Avenue elevation.
The, yes,
Are we going this way?
the porch side.
Okay.
Yes.
So I know that you talked about the columns. There is no change out of the railing system at all intended?
Just to refinish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same thing for the lower portion, the
That's
ground
correct.
floor?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I can't remember, does the existing porch covering at the second floor, does that tie into the front roof system?
It does not. It actually cuts off here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I was concerned about how you were finishing it. And then
Yeah.
if you could slide over to the other elevation?
So we're gonna go back this way.
Yep.
Okay.
So the Bella sign is gonna be removed?
It's gonna be removed while we refinish everything, but I believe it's probably gonna be back in place. when we're
In
done.
its existing glory?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, all right, not a problem, I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure. Because that would be another concern of
Yeah.
what does it look like? And then on this side, at the balcony side, those columns will also be addressed in the same way as the Howard Avenue side?
That's correct.
And then no changes to the railing or
That's correct.
any of that, okay.
Yeah.
All righty. I have no other questions. Anyone else with a question for the agent?
I do not. Thank you.
Done.
All right, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Okay.
Anything you'd like to add that you may have thought of while you were standing there?
Yeah, maybe, we're working with a really amazing client right now. They are investing a lot in Tampa, and I feel like their willingness to work with us, to keep the integrity of a existing building is kind of high. I've worked with clients before where they don't want to talk about it at all, and I feel like this group of people are very interested in not coming in and redoing everything, but being respectful of the community and the board, people that we review it with. So I just want to make that point. So anything that we have to address or work through, we have amazing clients that want to do that. So that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and close the public portion and we'll discuss the case.
I'll start. I think, as brought up by two of my fellow commissioners, I think perhaps a little more design intention could be put towards the solid waste enclosure and the firewood enclosure, even to highlight the firewood even while keeping it dry. That it could become a design focus rather than just something to throw in the corner. So I think a little more attention could be paid to that. Obviously, all the signage and all that, they're gonna have to get separate signage permits, so I don't know if we can say too much about that, but
We can, just put into the record that as the signage moves forward, especially the monumental sign,
yeah,
that is continue to be reviewed with staff, because we would hate to have staff go out in the field to review, and it looks completely different from what
Right.
we were shown tonight.
Right.
Yeah.
I also think the signage, you know, the other couple options of the front entrance with the signage at the top will really interfere with the simplicity, because that's the sky, the building sky connection.
I agree,
and-
if the whole motif is about this sort of monotone, sort of landscape of the roof plane, then breaking it that way
With the address.
detracts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think particular attention needs to be paid to the roof panels, frankly, because even if you refinish all the existing roof panels to match the new ones are gonna be Kynar and are gonna weather completely differently than a field painted
I don't
roof
think I
panel.
heard that they were gonna be Kynar, I only heard that they would match the existing metal panels.
Well, I imagine if they're they're gonna be pre-finished panels. They wouldn't be field painted, would they?
They can be.
They could be. It could be
Yeah.
a
They can
plain
be.
galvanum panel.
And then field paint. I would be
Yeah.
concerned that differently finished panels.
If you're gonna paint them, you're gonna paint them, you know, if that's where you're gonna end up.
Yeah. I think then we have to, that has to be particular, because in 3 years, any kind of painting or finish material difference on a roof, especially on the north side that doesn't get a whole lot of sun, it might get a little bit of mold or mildew or something else like that. It'll be different for different types of finishes of different roof panels.
But that's
so.
okay, that's an aging process, right? I think it's
But the
when
aging
it-
process would be uniform if it was all one material, but if they're two different materials, it'll accent that splotchiness.
Again, assuming that they're matching the material, which is something that we did not ask specifically, I would imagine, if they left it unfinished, that would be one thing, but they're gonna paint it, and if they do the painting process via an electrolysis kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost like a
Electrostatic.
powder, almost like
Right.
a field powder coat. Right.
exactly,
Yeah,
then you can deal with those
I
issues.
think maybe a condition should be if we are to vote to approve, I think a condition should be that the roofing panels and painting material methodology be reviewed by staff to make sure that it is all uniform
Uniformity.
across the whole roof.
I can agree with that condition, yep.
And then I think that, we
The
need to,
screening of the HVAC
review-
units, for
yeah.
sure.
yeah, and that again is a design issue because it's visible
Well,
from
in
the
the
street
district,
now.
we always require screening of units that are
Right.
visible. We prefer them not to be
Right.
visible, and when they cannot be made thus,
Yeah.
they must be screened.
Right. And obviously, if they're gonna remain on the roof,
Yeah,
the design of that screening panel system, or however it's gonna be screened, needs to be carefully reviewed. And I guess we can delegate that to staff.
I would be very worried if it was wood, though, but,
I could see aluminum louver,
yeah.
but there's a number of different ways of handling
There's
it.
can't
different ways of handling
Yeah,
that,
I can't imagine
I think
that.
materials choice is critical.
And maybe a little bit of, how it's handled. You could do screening that is predominantly vertical. With this project, you're thinking, it really needs to be horizontal.
I don't know, I mean, I've seen perforated systems
Perforated
that
would
do a
work out well,
great
too.
job.
But screening, yes, I think that would be
I
important.
think it
It may be the back side of the building, but still nonetheless.
It needs to be dealt.
It
well, it's
is
the
not
south
the
side.
back side.
Right, it's
No,
the
it
south
You
isn't.
side.
see it from the front, and you see it from
Until that gas
very
station,
exposed
and
corner.
until the gas station and convenience store gets redeveloped, that's high visibility.
That is high visibility by our,
So I just think that, care attention to the roofing material, care attention to the mechanical unit screenings, and care and attention needs to be taken to the solid waste enclosure and wood enclosure. And I think, I think the design level shown in the other moves being made to the building could be I think we can assure ourselves that if that level of design attention is paid to those three items, I think,
And the signage.
and the signage, I think it could be, I think we can
It'll
trust
tie it all
staff.
together.
Yeah, I think we can trust staff also to
All right. Any other points?
I have none.
No motion at this time?
I move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 23-336 for the property located at 1413 South Howard Avenue, with the following conditions: that, one, the applicant coordinate with staff and reconsider and revisit the architectural nature of the waste disposal and wood storage area and its related screening landscaping. Two, to coordinate with staff the final roof panel details, finish details for uniformity. Three, to coordinate with staff final building and monumental signage in its detailing and consistency. And four, to develop with staff an appropriate solution to the screening of rooftop HVAC units. Because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Hyde Park Historic Guidelines for the city of Tampa for the following reasons: in that this commercial property, though not of a contributing nature, is being redeveloped, redesigned to a uniform and high standard.
And a second, please?
I'll second.
And sir, if you could come forward to the podium. Do you understand the conditions that were set forth here tonight? And do you agree with them?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll have a vote then. Those in favor, please state aye and raise your hand indicating so.
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks.
And do we have any exhibits tonight? We didn't, did we? Okay. We are adjourned for the evening and we'll see you next month. Those of you